Show you guys how to create a beat for your vocals. Start it off with one vocal layer.
An entitled family comes into our cafe and makes an absolute mess and causes chaos all over the place. And as I'm trying to serve them, they make my life a living nightmare, even going as far as trying to get me fired once my manager gets involved. But thankfully, the gods of karma were on my side, as my manager decides to ban them from his cafe for life. And I've never been more satisfied watching an entitled family get put in their place. Here's what happened. So I worked in a few places, and currently I'm in a cafe, and I do some volunteering in some charity shops as well. So I mention that to say that I do deal with a lot of entitled people almost on a daily basis due to my workaholic lifestyle. Now, some small things which are annoying but happen quite often in a charity shop is where people try to use blue light cards in charity shops when we don't accept them. Now, I get it. You do a good job that helps people, but often doesn't pay well. But everything that we sell is extremely cheap. I mean, we had a lady try to buy Dr. Martens, which we were selling at $6.99, and she tried to use a blue light card. I explained to her that we don't accept blue light cards here, and usually the woman would let out that sigh to make it clear that she's annoyed with you, or make a comment about how ridiculous that is. But no, she instead insisted that we do accept it as every shop does, which is simply not true. Not every shop accepts it, which I do calmly explain to her, and after about 5 minutes of going back and forth, she finally stopped arguing and paid for the shoes that she was buying. Another small thing which is annoying that doesn't happen that often, but enough that I can say confidently it happens at least twice a week, is when a person, usually a man, comes into the cafe that I work at and orders multiple things on the menu and complains when it takes too long. I mean, I'm sorry, but ordering a stack of 5 pancakes, 2 chicken wraps, 2 large Cokes, several waffles, hash browns, sausages, baked beans on toast, not to mention the black pudding, does all take more than 2 minutes. These are annoying. I mean, even more than annoys me, but I can deal with those easily, and they don't bother me too long. Usually, once the person leaves the cafe or the shop, I practically calm down instantly, but what happened today, that is something that nearly made me quit working completely. It starts off as a normal day, but actually, it's better than a normal day, as we had a calm day. There were not that many people, and just some small families with teenagers, so we don't have to deal with messy tables or little children running around and yelling. But eventually a large family came in, and there was a total of 8 children, and I would say the youngest was around 4 years old, with the oldest being about 7. Clearly this wasn't all their children, perhaps a small party, though I doubt that it was. They asked for a table of 8 people. There was only 9 of them, so it was a little confusing, and I explained that we don't have tables big enough for a table of 20, but we have a table that can fit 15 people if they want that one instead. That table is usually booked, but it wasn't today, and trust me, I wish that it was, as they might have went to another cafe and bothered someone else. So while it was lucky for them, it was not for me, the other waitress, and our other chef. It took around 15 minutes to get all the kids to the table. The parents were not helping, and usually, if kids are running around, we do not do anything. But these kids were climbing everywhere. Some of these 6-year-olds almost made it into the kitchen if it wasn't for the entitled mother of this group yelling at them that they can't go into the kitchen, as they might supposedly poke an eye out. Now bear in mind, we don't have anything around these 6-year-olds' eye level that would poke an eye out, but we do have a lot of boiling water, knives, and extremely hot stoves. So the whole kitchen is quite dangerous, in my opinion, for a bunch of 6-year-olds. But that is all the parents did to control these kids. So I decided to ask them and said, do you mind calling your children to the table, as they are causing a disturbance in the cafe? They responded by saying, there isn't anyone else here, they are fine. If you have such an issue with it, you can go get them back to the table. Now, I was generally very shocked at this. My coworker, who we will call Jess, was on her break, but she was kind enough to end her break early to help me get all these kids to the table. I am so thankful for that as well, because I am not good with kids. I only managed to get 2 of the kids back to the table, and she managed to get the rest back with ease. And once we got the last kid back, the one who had dirt on their face as he was digging up the plants, these entitled parents had the audacity to say something to us that honestly blew my mind. They looked at us and said, well, that took you long enough. Now, we do have a very strict boss who isn't in yet, so we didn't want to kick them out before our boss could actually see what was happening, because he would be on the customer side before even checking the security footage and checking check in with us to see what actually happened. So we just tried our best to bottle up how we were feeling and hope that our boss would come back in time to actually deal with them. Now, for the sake of the store coworkers. Now, according to Jess, as she worked here longer than me, she said that we only had one person kicked out and banned from the cafe, and they were not as bad as these people. So that got my hopes up that I would never have to deal with these people ever again. Now, let's skip forward a few minutes to when the entitled dad whistled me over like a dog. Now, I did make a comment about this. I said to them, please do not whistle at me to get your attention. You can call me by my name. He scoffed at this and proceeded to say their order. It was a large order, but it was expected for a large group and wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. I thought it would be more as they were being so rude, but I tried thinking positively that perhaps they had a bad day and they were just overwhelmed with all these bad kids. Now, this order had a lot, so Jess decided to help out the chef. We will call the chef Eric, also not his real name. Now, Jess isn't the best cook, but she only did the easy things like boiling the eggs for him or even making the toast while he made the pancakes and waffles. During this time, I tried sitting at one of the booths not close to them, but I could see their whole table and I did keep a close eye on them. I thought this was a smart idea, and it would have been if they didn't need something every 5 seconds. They would say stuff like, how long will this take? Are you allowed to be sitting down during your work hours? We need a new cup. These are way too small. There isn't nearly enough ice in my water. We want new cutlery. These are dirty. Now, I can confirm that they are not dirty, and they didn't even notice that I gave them the same cutlery back to them, as I knew that they were clean. And before anybody says that they might have dropped it or something like that, I had my eye on them the whole time to make sure they didn't cause any chaos, and the cutlery that they wanted to change was only the cutlery. Those were practically left untouched. They then started complaining and asking if the pancakes had any eggs in it, and they just asked that out of curiosity, not because of any dietary restrictions or some kind of allergy. One of them then said, do you have a spare hairband? Mine broke. Oh wait, I got one. Never mind. And honestly, this was so annoying, and I felt as if they knew what they were doing, because once I sat down, every single time they would call me over in that annoying teacher's voice that made me want to rip my ears off my head. But despite all that, I kept calm, answered all their questions with a smile on my face. Now, here in the United Kingdom, we don't get tipped as nicely as Americans. Quite often, I don't even get tipped, so I did all of this expecting perhaps a small tip for dealing with them. It took around an hour to get all their food done. I mean, we had to make sure it was all cooked out at the same time, and we made sure that it was warm, but the toast were finished quicker than expected, so they were 5 minutes earlier than the rest of the food. And it's right here that everything broke out into chaos. The mom chimes in and says, where's the rest of the food? I explained to them that they will be right out in just a moment. The mom said to me, how long? Exact time, please. We are not mind readers. She then gives me that dirty smile that makes you feel so angry, as you can tell that they aren't being nice at all. I look at him and I say, it should be just about 5 minutes. And I try to just laugh this off, as usually it works with the rude people that I serve. The dad then chimes in and says, why is it taking so long? We've been here for hours and you want us to wait even longer? I say to them, well, the tickets say the time that they were printed, and I know you've been waiting around 30 minutes, but that is to be expected with 4 deluxe 5-stack pancakes and 3 deluxe waffles. And you did request all the food to come out at the same time, so we did try to time it, but your 2 meals just finished quicker than expected, so we didn't want it to get cold. Now, I did expect them to interrupt me, but they actually let me say all of this, so I thought they might understand that we are doing our job as best as possible and didn't want to serve them cold food. The mom then makes a really snide remark. She says, you are a chef and you don't know how long it takes to boil an egg? Now, at this point, I am a little bit annoyed, but I'm still trying to be nice. I say to her, I'm not the chef, and he just made one small mistake, and we are really sorry about it. The dad then chimes in and says, you seem very sorry with that attitude. I respond by saying, I'm sorry if I gave you an attitude, I've just had a long day. Now, for the record, I've not had a long day, but I need to stay calm, as I know that my boss will be back soon, and if I were to yell at them like I wanted to, I just know he would walk in and fire me on the spot. The mom then says, we also had a hard day, but you don't see us being rude. The Dad then said that he just wants the pancakes out right now. So I said, okay, I'll go check and see if they're done. I leave and I can hear them snicker and talking about me being incompetent and unable to do small tasks. But I started to feel as if luck was on my side, as once I got into the kitchen, I see Ross entering from the back at the same time as me. I explain everything as quick as possible. The pancakes were almost done and they just needed a plate. He was very understanding and told me to stay at the counter at the front and serve any new customers, and he will serve this family. And what happened next was honestly amazing. So Ross goes over and serves the family, and as he does that, I can see them complain, and I heard them talk even more garbage about me, saying that I'm so bad and that they need to replace me. Now, I could see Ross getting annoyed, but he was doing his job. He didn't put on his manager badge, and instead had another coworker's badge on. So I realized he was pretending to be a normal employee just so they wouldn't start acting differently, as he owns the cafe. When the food all gets there, the kids are extremely messy, even wiping their dirty hands from all the ice cream and chocolate sauce on the chairs. And these chairs had fabric on them and can easily be stained if left dirty. I saw the parents laughing at this and not telling them off and not even saying anything to the kids. Then I saw the kids starting to get up and run around again. Now, Ross already knows how bad they were when they first were running around, and now they're covered in food. So this really is worst case scenario. Before I go to stop them, Ross tells me, that's my table now, I'll deal with it. So he goes over to these parents and he says to them, tell your children to sit down, they are making a mess. And you know what? He got the same response as they gave me. And this is right when he says, I'll get you your bill. At this point, I heard some arguing, because apparently they didn't want to pay yet or leave. So he explains how they are being kicked out as their behavior is making the cafe a mess and making people not wanting to come into the cafe. Now, this felt like one of those stories you would find online when they said, you can't kick us out, you're not the manager. And that's when I saw Ross smirk. He said to them, I am the manager and you are being kicked out. And if you don't leave, you will be banned from ever eating here ever again. Me and Jess were watching and we loved this. If we had popcorn, it would have been perfect. They refused to leave for a few minutes, but they did end up paying. And when they were leaving, he yelled out, you are banned forever. Never come back to my cafe ever again. My manager then swore at these people, and that's right when this entitled father turns around and quickly yelled out, we have children, don't swear in front of them. Now, this is where I cut in and I say, you were swearing in front of them earlier. Now, Ross did tell me off for this comment, but not in front of them, as he didn't want to make them feel as if they were in the right, as they were not. But they did argue with Ross for a bit, and let me just hit you with the highlights. They did not want to leave, they wanted a refund for bad service, but Ross was saying they paid for the food and did not tip, and since they ate all the food, they won't be getting any kind of refund. This scenario repeats over and over again until he threatens to call the police, and thankfully they finally leave. Now, he didn't check the security footage, but he said judging from their behavior, he knew for a fact that what we said was the truth, which was very nice to hear. And honestly, I'm so glad that I never have to deal with them ever again. Wow, that story's insane. I seriously love it when a manager steps in and does the right thing. This could have gone really poorly if the manager was not on their side. I have definitely had managers in the past who have not had my back, and it's only made issues like this even worse. Like, seriously, you're trying your best to keep your cool because you know you're not the person that gets to tell these people off or that gets to ban them from the store if they act up. But it's so nice when a manager sees exactly the way these people are acting, because it makes your life so much easier when you're explaining that, yeah, these people are acting up and they're acting like jerks the entire time. So good for you for keeping your cool as long as you could, as well as your manager for kicking them out, because those people were being so disrespectful and they absolutely did not deserve to stay at the cafe. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com to submit. If you'd like to submit your own stories. My husband is very resentful of my career. Basically is implying that he wants me to quit my job, and I'm now so angry and frustrated over his behavior that I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband has given me an ultimatum of sorts to quit my job, and at this point I'm so confused on what to do, and I need a game plan when I fly home from a business trip in 3 days. We met and fell hard in love when I was in my escapist phase of my life. I was a high achiever with a graduate degree with lots lots of family pressure to succeed, but weary of the rat race. He was an artist, and he was smart, curious, and living cheap. Our first couple of years were blissful, as we lived a more bohemian lifestyle. We went through a couple tough years, as I supported him through grad school. But eventually, we settled, married, and bought a small fixer-upper house with my grandma's inheritance, and we also had 2 beautiful kids. It was somewhat of a running joke that I'm the breadwinner, and he's the struggling artist, but it didn't matter. We were best friends, and he's a great dad. I mean, we were so happy. Because we have the freedom of not having a mortgage, life was pretty low pressure until we had kids and our expenses soared. With hindsight, I realized that part of choosing him as a husband was to rebel against my strict upbringing or to marry someone opposite to my father. Now, I accept those psychological components, and in another life, maybe I would be wiser to choose someone who's more compatible with me on a practical level. But now we are a family, and we still adore each other, and I don't believe that anyone is 100% compatible anyway. I am willing to put in the effort to make this work. Now, back to the story. I floated around different unchallenging jobs, but around the time that I became pregnant with my second, I got a huge opportunity in a startup. This involves managing accounts in many foreign countries and quite a bit of stress, but it is well paid, and it's much more than we ever made combined. Plus, it's super interesting work. I get to work from home and pick up the kids at around 4 o'clock, even though I start early, and he has to take care of them in the mornings. Well, when I took this job, he was less than thrilled. It required him to stop teaching full-time at an art school, which he didn't love, and was a poorly paid dead-end job anyways. We agreed that with our higher income, he could teach part-time, get a studio, and focus on his art, which is something he always wanted to do. And that way, he could be the primary parent in case the kid is sick and needed to stay home. And you know what? A lot of couples have this kind of arrangement when their kids are little. Generally, women are the more flexible parent, so the higher earner can focus on their job. From day one, this situation has made him unhappy, and it's just getting worse. He has felt so insecure and so resentful that he now takes it out on me. He blames me constantly for working too much, as well as being too stressed and not being available, and also not being supportive of him. And you know what? I have to admit, it's harder to be attracted to a jealous, insecure man. I feel like I've been extremely patient, trying to fill everybody else's needs, trying to end my workdays early to be with my family and not talk about work, and canceling almost all work trips for close to 2 years. But the harsh reality is that my job is stressful, my husband doesn't contribute financially, and I still do a lot of housework and childcare. And on top of that, he's incredibly unhappy. If I think about it too hard, I feel used and very angry. I think the deeper problem for him is that he feels like a failure in his professional work and takes it out on me. Last year, he worked with a career coach, and I thought it would lead to him applying for some jobs. But instead, he started a small business that is struggling to take off, and he used our savings to get that started. I just don't have the capacity to help him grow the business, even though he wishes that I could. He says that he feels unsupported and unloved. This month, I had to go on an 8-day work trip, the first I ever accepted with this job. It was decided well in advance, and I made arrangements for him to get help from a nanny, which I wouldn't hire if I was single parenting. I filled the fridge and freezer for him, and I left my kids heavy-hearted. And things seemed to be okay until the little one got sick one night and nobody slept. That morning, he told me on the phone that he couldn't live this way, that I'm not the person I was when we met, and that things needed to change right now. Basically, an ultimatum for me to quit my job. Now, I was sad more than surprised, but also angry at him for making me feel guilty about working to support our family. I could technically quit this cool job and find something less demanding. Like I said, we don't have a mortgage, which is a huge privilege in terms of financial freedom. We could live very frugally again like the good old days, and I would have to take the 1-year-old out of daycare and split his care with my husband. But it would also feel like he was dragging me down and not wanting me to be successful. And that's the part that makes me tick. Him not wanting me to be successful at what I do. I look at all my coworkers on this trip who also have young kids, and I know their partners are back home, understanding that this is just part of life and work. I don't know what to say or how to say it. When he tells me that he feels hurt, I feel sorry for him, but also very angry. I want to blurt out and say, get over it. Life is hard, get a job, and grow up. But when I've alluded to that in the past, he has blown up and told me I should leave him and marry a lawyer or something like that. that. I'm just tired. I'm so tired. I just want peace. I want someone to recognize everything I've been doing to keep it all together. I want him to be happy, but I'm apparently never saying the right thing ever. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. It really seems like your husband's being super selfish. Like either he has like amnesia or something like that, or he is seriously forgetting all the work you do to keep this family afloat. Here you have a wonderful job that is like a career advancement in your life, and this guy's acting like it's the worst thing to ever happen to him. Like seriously, buddy, what is your problem? You're a starving artist who worked at an art school, and you don't make hardly any money to try and keep things going in the house. Your wife getting a job like this would be like the perfect opportunity to do something independent. Like, why does this guy seriously not see the benefit of his wife being the breadwinner? Because you know what? If I was in his shoes, I would be so grateful that my wife had that job. I would step up to the plate and do what I need to do to keep the family going. Because last I checked, this is a team effort. And according to the original poster, she stood beside this guy when they basically had no money and they didn't know what they were doing. So for the husband of this story to act like, oh man, this is such a burden on me, while also trying to run this weird pity party, in my opinion is completely pathetic, and he really does need to get over himself. So hopefully this all works out for you, and that this guy doesn't try to make you quit your job. Because right now you have a really good thing going, and it would be such a shame to throw it all away just because of your husband's insecurities. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.
What exactly is the sandbox then?
It's a 3D metaverse. The building blocks are voxels, which are like 3D pixels. You can even
And also emphasizing the fact that it's his choice to tell whoever he wants to. And just because you found out in this certain type of way doesn't mean you're going to tell anyone, because it's not your choice. So with all of that, do you think he is the jerk or not if he tells his brother that he knows? And what would you do in this situation? Am I the jerk for not wanting a ring my fiance already gave another girl? My now fiance was engaged a couple years ago before we got together, and they broke up, and she gave the ring back. We've been together a few years, and a few days ago, he proposed, and I was super excited. The ring looked kind of familiar, and when I asked him where it was from, it was the ring he gave to his ex-fiancée. I immediately took it off and was like, I don't want a ring that you bought for someone else. It wasn't meant for me. He got upset and said it didn't matter because it's not hers anymore, it's mine. My family and friends are split in saying that I'm a jerk and I'm justified. I don't want him to spend a whole other $1,000 on a ring for me, but I still want a ring that was meant for me, not for someone else. Am I the jerk? This is a situation where that single symbolic ring probably holds a lot of connotations and representations of how he felt for another person. So I can understand why she's kind of freaked out that he's giving her a ring that all of that thought went into for someone else. For her, it probably comes off as like the leftovers of his past. If you guys have ever seen the show 90 Day Fiancé, there was also a situation like this on that show, and that girl was not at all happy about this also. In that case, I think it was over 10 years that he was holding onto the ring until he gave it to her, so the way he saw it was the ring was in a totally different light. But in this case, it sounds like this relationship is just rather than having one that's fancier. So this ring that he's giving her from his ex might be a much more expensive fancy ring, but it sounds like she'd probably be more happy with a very plain, simple ring that's hers and hers alone. But let me know what you guys think, jerk or not a jerk, and what would you do if someone gave you a ring that was meant for someone else originally? Am I the jerk for suggesting / letting my 17-year-old son get sloshed? I'm a 46-year-old male, and I live with my wife and my 17-year-old son. My wife has been on a different continent for about a month taking care of her dying mother, so it has just been me and my son for that time. My son and I have a close relationship where he tells me almost everything going on in his life. On Saturday, he told me he was going to his very first ever party this upcoming upcoming weekend. He was a bit nervous since he had never really drank before, but he knew he was going to on that occasion. Not sure if this is relevant, but this is in Canada where the drinking age is 12 years old in my province, and teenage drinking is very common. I asked my son if he wanted to have a few beers with me while we watched a sports game that night as a test run of sorts. My logic was if he goes into the party with zero awareness of his tolerance that it could end badly, and it would be best for him to find out his limit in the safety of his home with me. We had some beers over a few hours in the night, and I cut him off at 6. He has had beer in his past, but never more than one at a time. He was pretty sloshed, but he was okay. I slept it off. We talked about it the next day, and we agreed that 6 was too much for him, and now he knows to have fewer drinks at the party. I was actually pretty content with this whole situation since he had his first experience drinking in a safe environment, and I feel much more comfortable with him going to a party now. However, in an effort to be transparent, I told my wife about it over the phone, and she was livid. She thinks it was reckless and irresponsible. Am I the jerk? On this one, people seem to be pretty split. There are certain people that think that it's just a dad teaching the son to binge. In other cases, there are certain comments where people said things like this. Yeah, I wish my parents had done this. The first time I did, I blacked out and threw up. It seems like the dad's intention was to keep the son safe by putting him in a safe environment so he could know what his limit was, and apparently they went over that limit. And I'm guessing the wife is probably more upset here that he didn't communicate this with him doing it. Maybe more than actually having the son go through it. Jerk or not a jerk, and what would you do if you were in this situation as the wife or the husband? Am I the jerk for telling this college guy's mom that her coming into his interview cost him the job? I'm a hiring manager at a tech company, and I was hiring for summer internships a little while ago. We had a guy about 19 years old applying for a summer internship between his freshman and sophomore years of college. It was a virtual interview over Zoom because of COVID. A minute or two in, when I was introducing myself, his mom came in and introduced herself and started talking about her son's work ethic. I thought it was a little strange. I said something polite about wanting to hear from him. She just didn't get the hint and kept coming into the camera frame during the interview and interrupting her son to answer questions for him. I asked a few technical questions, which he seemed to answer well, and then cut the interview fairly short. I thought that was all over and done with until I got an email from a woman a month later asking about her son's application. She seemed offended he hadn't gotten an acceptance or a rejection. It bothered me. I felt bad for the kid, honestly. Way back when I was a teenager, my mom used to pull the same stuff, but luckily she only did that when I was 15 and working for a day camp, not when I was an adult applying for engineering jobs. But I felt like this poor kid was getting his chances ruined because his mom wasn't giving him the chance to apply on his own. I sent an email back saying I was not at liberty to send information about an applicant to anyone but the applicant. I also asked HR to send an email to the kid saying sorry, but we're not making him an offer. It is something we usually do, but his rejection email must have slipped through the cracks with all the COVID treatments. Anyway, we sent that. I got a call from his mom. She had a forwarded copy of the email and she was demanding answers. I said I could not comment on the guy's performance in the interview to her as she was not the applicant herself. If he wanted to reach out to me, I was happy to give him some feedback. However, I could say that regardless of his performance, her presence in the interview took into consideration for the position. I'm looking for an independent and self-sufficient person for the position, and for that reason, it is important to see an applicant speak for themselves, follow up themselves, etc. I also said that as a piece of advice, every hiring manager I've ever met in my career who sees someone other than the applicant answering questions during an interview, following up on the applicant's behalf, etc., would also put their resume into the do not hire pile. Since while the applicant may be skilled and motivated, they need the ability to demonstrate those traits themselves. She blew up at me over that, cussing me out to the point where I hung up. So, am I the jerk for how I handled this? Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut way earlier. This is something the mom needed to hear eventually anyway, and if it wasn't from him, it would be from somebody else down the line at some point. So it kind of seems like he's the one saving everyone's time, saving the nice time, saving the mom's time, and saving his own time, just by saying a straight up reason why he was an amazing fit for this job. It doesn't make sense to hire him. Hopefully, once she knows that, she'll stop interrupting his own interview and let the 19-year-old guy speaking for himself, that way he can even have a chance to get a job. I mean, it really does sound like the guy may have gotten the job because he answered the technical questions in a proficient way from the sounds of it, but the mom came in and stepped on that before he even had a chance. So let me know what you guys think. Is he the jerk or not? And what would you do if you were him or the son in this situation? Am I the jerk for asking my husband to turn down his dream job for my career? I'm going to be very vague for privacy reasons. I'm a 33-year-old female and I'm the breadwinner of our household. I have multiple highly specialized degrees for a niche industry. I make $200K plus with the potential to get into the $600 to $1 million range. My company has not been hit badly by COVID, so most of us have kept our jobs, but we're still held to certain standards. Male has a broad degree / work experience. He quit his job right before COVID hit, hoping for a better job in the meantime, and I was supportive. He spent a ton of time applying to various jobs and finally landed an interview at Organization X. This is his dream job in almost every imaginable way. I can't be detailed. However, it's paying about $65K a year, which would be fine, except this job directly puts my job stability at risk. My company and this organization are adversarial at best. My field is extremely secretive, and if clients discovered my spouse was working for a competitor, I would be permanently tainted. I wouldn't be able to get a job in the industry ever. I know this sounds like an exaggeration, but I promise you it is absolutely not. It would be like if I worked in protecting the privacy of celebrities and he worked for TMZ. If he tapped my car, got into my work devices, he could use that to advance his career, and any trust I have in this field would be gone. Even if I trusted my husband not to do any of that, my clients and the company do not. Worse, because my background is so specialized, this is the only field I can work in. I asked him to drop from consideration for this job, since if he got it, we'd lose my income. $65K cannot support us in this city. Plus, he does not have to work for this organization. Even if the job market is awful right now, his background gives him access to a wide range of jobs. But I only have this one niche field. He was extremely angry and said I was selfish and only cared about money. I told him that if he wanted to go back to school for an advanced degree or just be unemployed for a while, I would support him, but taking this job isn't possible. He continued the process behind my back and got the offer. He wants to accept it because he says his career needs to take priority and I wasn't being supportive. I feel so betrayed, and I've contacted all relevant higher-ups in my company to inform them. I notified them as soon as he got the interview because it's better coming from my email than from the background. I told him he could decline the offer, with me watching him physically decline it, or he could accept the offer and move out immediately. I would pay for him to stay 2 weeks at a hotel, and we would begin divorce proceedings. My company is willing to take care of all my legal fees. I feel awful. I still love him. I moved decisively because this was the best way to cut my losses, but it still hurts. He called me heartless and cold. It's true that I was prioritizing my career over his, but it felt like the only option at the time. Am I the jerk? The first strange thing in this whole situation is that she seemed like she was very clear about exactly what was okay and what was not okay, but yet the husband went behind her back to continue the process. So despite people thinking it's weird that she gave him two options at the end of all this to either physically watch him decline or move out, it's probably because she doesn't trust him, because he did this gigantic elaborate thing behind the scenes of doing whatever he needed to do to have everything ready, to do the interview, to do all that stuff to get the job, all while hiding him from her. That's a very strange way to be, in contrast to her seemingly being so open and upfront about how she feels about it. So rather than him responding to her and saying, no, that's not okay, or communicating how he actually feels, it seems like he just let her think that they were on the same page and decided to do it in secret, which seems like the worst way to go of any possibility. There are definitely a lot of people saying that the wife here only cares about money and that she chose her job over the husband, but it seems like she did give him a ton of options. If she's being honest about this whole offer to allow him to go back to school, to get another degree, or to be unemployed for a while, it's not like this guy has his back against the wall, but the counter argument to that is that this is supposedly a job. I'm not exactly sure why it is somewhere else that's not exactly in opposition to the wife's only job, but it's complicated about knowing exactly what they're talking about in relation to their privacy. Some people do pretty well where they said that even though a lot of people are saying that the wife has decided her job is more important than her husband, on the flip side, the husband has decided his job offer is worth more than her entire career, because she's emphasized multiple times that if this happens, not only will she lose this current job, but she'll lose her entire career because she'll never be able to get back in again, because nobody will trust her because she didn't disclose who she was married to and what job they had. So on both sides, both of them are choosing a job, but one really is losing her entire career, that being the wife. But let me know what you guys think. Is she the jerk or not a jerk in this situation for essentially giving her husband the ultimatum to decline his dream job opportunity or divorcing him and having him move out? Am I the jerk for telling my stepdad and mom that they shouldn't be surprised at what my little brother said to them when they pulled a prank on him? I'm a 20-year-old female, and I'm the oldest sister to my little biological brother, who's a 17-year-old male. He finished high school last year. My little brother and I are really close. He says I'm the best friend he has, and he loves me more than anyone. Of course, this is not true. He has many friends of his own. My brother has been asking our stepdad/mother if he could get a new car for his grad party since last year, and he said he'd pay 50 to 75% of it with his own hard-earned money while they pay the rest. They said no. I have a car, but I've been working for one. They helped me pay off for it. So my brother's arguments with our parents got heated after a while. One time I told my brother I'd help him pay off expenses for a good car once on my own. He hugged me and said I didn't have to worry and that he owed me way more than I owed him. But he continued to press our parents all of last year until eventually they gave in and said yes like they did for me. Note that our stepdad and my brother have a negative relationship for the most part. Our biological mother and our stepdad got together soon after our biological dad and mom divorced when we were little. My brother thinks that my dad and mother were seeing each other before our real parents were divorced, and to be honest, I think that might be true. Not certain though. Anyway, my stepdad, mother, and brother compromised and said they'd get him the car in 2021 so that people don't gawk at him at the graduation party. June this year, my brother and stepdad/mother are still on about the car. Now, the arguments are getting loud and hours until evening. My stepdad was getting into screaming matches with my brother over it, but they reached a final compromise of the car being bought last week. The fated morning comes, my brother wakes up to our stepdad and mom guiding him outside to a car, but not his, our mother's. Stepdad used his and my brother's money on a dumb prank, bought a completely different model of car, and said it was for our mother. Our mom and stepdad just laughed and kissed each other. My brother didn't lose it. He didn't even look angry. He just looked dead in our stepdad's eyes and said, and I'm not joking, verbatim, "You might think I'm effing stupid. You might think whatever, but I'm better than you, bro. You know what? You know that. I know that. And our mom is an idiot for staying with a jerk like you. But I'll make you wish you'd never met us. I promise you. You might be laughing now, but you'll be crying later." He then walked off, not even looking back at them. They stared horrified. They asked me what that was about, and I, feeling terrible for my brother, said that they had it coming and not to be surprised. So now they grounded both of us. I've had to explain the situation to my friends, and I can't see them anymore, but I feel so bad for my baby brother, and they backed me up on this and asked me to comfort him as much as possible. But our parents are so mad, and they can't see that my brother has had his heart crushed. Am I the jerk for telling my stepdad and mom that they shouldn't be surprised at what my little brother said to them when they pulled a prank on him? So is it really a prank if it's real, if it's actually what's happened? Because this part that says the stepdad used his and my brother's money on a dumb prank and bought a completely different model of car and said it was for our mother. The way that this is written is a little bit confusing because you can kind of read some things here in a few different ways. But the part that seems clear is that the stepdad took their collective money and then bought a completely different model of car for their mother. But it's weird though. This is really weird. Is the implication here supposed to be that he gets the other car, or that he gets no cars at all and he just spent the money of the son? I mean, if that's the case, then this is really crazy because the brother has been saving the